Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Australia, and you're welcome back to another writing session. Hello. How are you all doing? Hello, hello, hello. Hello, Bones. Hello, Vector. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Thank you, thank you. Hello, hello. Welcome to this stream. Today, we're going to be talking about world building and where to stop. Something that a lot of people don't know how to do, because some people start writing the world building and they never stop. Me including, in a time of one of my times. It was like crazy. So, let's start by the basics, and as always, there's an interactive class, so we're all gonna be talking about this together. So, first come first, ladies and gentlemen. What is world building? Does anybody here in class know what world building is? That's the first question I have, is what is world building? So tell me, what is world building? Once we know that, we can totally go for the rest. But first, what is world building? And once we have that out of the way, we can actually all that stuff. So, what is world building? How not to make One Piece. Plot ticketing agent trademark indeed. Oh, I'm going to pin that comment because it's amazing. Yep, pin it. I love it. So, let me see. It's an episode of One Piece. Yeah, those are eternal. The One Piece thing is eternal. It's just like super eternal. There is no way, just no way to actually like do anything with it. So big. One Piece is so big that it's ridiculous. Okay. It's not bad, but still, it's like too much. Oh my god. So tell me, what is world building? Anyone over here in the chat? The leader of the big three. Oh boy. Okay. I'm just enjoying the vibes. So, what is world building according to you? Environmental foundation of a plot. Yep, that's one. That's one indeed. That's one indeed. I will put environment. I know that's not how you spell it, but still. Environment. That's one of the things. Indeed. Environment is one of the things. Foundation of a plot, we're gonna talk about that in a second, because it's not necessarily that. Another thing entirely. But first we have, environment is one of the things, like, basic. That's what you do with world building, is basically that, environment. And it could be actually like resuming to environment, and then you can actually like disclose it into different things, like change it into the different aspect of an environment. Let's say it's that. Let's say it's environment building. That's a good way to put it. Now, let's talk about more of the specifics. So, you have, oops, let me put that there we go. And then, we're gonna go for the next thing in the list of talking about the world building scenario, and that is, when does the world building start? Do you know? Because when you're writing, you don't necessarily have the world building already done. So you can think of anything. Right now, I'm drawing, that's amazing. Just from manifesting a picture within a reader's imagination. Yeah, that's actually a... yeah. But the picture that you're talking about is like a big picture. World building is actually more like the creation of fine details, I would say. The aspect of manifesting a picture within the reader's imagination, that's a description, actually. That's like the basis of a description. When you do a description in a tale, you're actually doing that. You're manifesting a picture within the reader's imagination, and sometimes an animation indeed. So, in this case, I'm going to put this down. Is the creation of the details. And when does the world building start then? When do you think that the world building stops? Like, when does the artist start with the world building? In the beginning, the middle, or in the end? When do you think it starts? I love Vector doing drawings of the community. I love it. So. When does the world building start? My beloved and aspiring people that wants to create a story probably in the future. Where does your world building start? Do you have any idea? Bum 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 bum. Very well then, I'm going to talk then. I'm going to be talking then. Very well, so when does the world building start? I would say it depends. Why it depends? Because you can have the plot before having the world building. You can have it can start in pre-production or in the middle of it. Actually build a whole world on the fly. You can totally do that, by the way. It can be in pre-production. There we go. Some people like to make their world building prior the writing process, prior the drawing phase, or all of that. And some other people prefer to just do it on the fly, and that's fine. My first book ever, I actually write my first novel. It was actually all on the fly. But then the next book that I actually did was the contrary. I actually did the world building first, and then I had the rest. And now, how does it connect? Actually, I'm going to write this. Plot or world first? And that's a good question indeed, because no shield. I want to say plot or world first, right? I mean, do you create like plot? Plot, you say, very well. I love it. It could be any way actually, but plot is a good way to start actually. You can have this story already in your head of, like, I want a character that goes from point A to B. In the middle of the journey it falls in love, close to the end the love interest is murdered, and they go into a rampage to avenge them before they reach point B and the story ends. And then you create a world building around them to basically put some meat into those bones. Pun intended, bones. But then you can have actually the other way around. You can have the world building first and then create the story. You can start writing a mythos down, and then your brain will conjure up the characters that are actually like moving along that mythos, and that's how you have your story. It could be any way around. You can have the plot or the world building first. You can have the plot and the world building. World building in any order you want. And now this is a question that I'm going to do. Does a modern, in the sense of modern, I mean like in the present time in our world requires world building? Tell me, does it? Does it require world building? Doesn't matter. I mean, like today, I'm writing a book about literally a gamer that lives in an apartment, goes to work, and that's it. That's the whole story. It's just a slice of life. Does it require or not world building? That kind of story. What is your opinion on that? Does it require world building? It's in our world, so there are no magical elements. There is no magical elements. There is basically nothing extraordinary happening over there. There are no like secret assassin organizations. There is basically nothing. But does it require? That's the question, Bones. Does cultural things count as world building? The answer is yes, because believe it or not, world building also includes characters. You might think that world building is this grand scale of things, but world building could be actually a family, or the lack thereof. You're creating a world, a new world, every single time. In this case, this gamer only had a mom. That's world building. And character development. A lot of things, but world building is a thing. The co-worker of who the gamer has a crush on has a family that is strict. World building. There you have it. There is world building in everything. Every tale has a little bit of world building in it. You could maybe create a metric to like assess how deep the world building goes, but in the end, it's world building, and that's what it matters. And it works is, in a sense, already a different world itself. Indeed, it is. That's the thing, Bones. Indeed. Indeed, it is. In these cases, yes. You need world building. Indeed, it is. That's the thing, right? It's like that. And now I'm going to have another question then. What goes inside the folder of world building, right? What goes inside the folder of world building? You are creating a new world or a normal setting or stuff like that. What goes in that folder? Like, what details are you going to conjure up in your imagination that you think they are relevant enough to basically have a place in your folder of references? So, what do you put in the folder of world building? It can be summed up in one word, by the way. This answer can be summed up in just one word. Dum, dum, dum. Exactly, Bones. Everything. Everything. From the color of a spoon to the weather of the day. Everything. 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 Everything, everything, everything goes into the folder of world building. No matter how small, no matter how big, everything goes in it. I'm too smart for the demo you are. So, everything goes into the world building folder. Everything that your mind conjures up, everything that your brain says like, this is an interest tidbit, you just put it there, and even if you say this is super trivial, goes into the world building folder. And now this is the other question that I have that is actually like the big thing that a lot of world builders actually struggle with, and that is, does everything have to be written down in the final product. Right? That is the thing. That's everything you write up needs to be in the final product. For example, I am like writing about 7 kingdoms, right? And then I write that this world actually has another continent where there are 2 other kingdoms that are more powerful than the main of the kingdoms that the history takes place, but they never come into contact with each other. But there are like whispers that exist, but is that relevant to the plot or not? Do I have to write it down in the final book, or do I just leave it there hanging in the air in the folder of world building? I have this super intricate world with all the creatures detail, with everything detail. Do I need to write everything down? Do I need to create a chapter, a phrase, a description for every single item that I have in the folder in order to showcase my world building? Or do I need to shut up? Indeed, the answer is no, Bones. And that is why, and this is something that I love actually about writing and basically other things, the world building can be felt by the reader. That's the thing. The world building can be felt even if you don't write all the details. If you have it so clearly in your head when you're writing it down, trust me, the reader will be able to see it, even if you never write it down. Hello Danny, welcome to the stream. For example, there are a lot of writers that actually go to their readers, and when they actually talk to them and say to them, like, for example, the writer says, there was a chair in this room, right? The writer has a chair in their imagination, exactly what chair they were talking about. They create a whole atmosphere around it, but never describe the chair. Well, guess what? The people who they talk to, they actually imagine the same chair as the author. You know why? Because they already had that in their brain and they were able to, like, transfer that description without actually saying it. It's weird, it's complicated, but it's possible. So that's the thing. You don't write everything you have in the world building folder. You just write what is relevant to the plot. But you keep all the rest in your head, in the back of your head. All of it. Because there is sometimes where a writer just mentions a distant kingdom, like just they're in the main chunk. The whole plot of the story is farmer is farming a farm in Fantasy Kingdom number 1, and they go into a tavern and they talk about Fantasy Kingdom number 3 with a really cool name and never mention them again. Well, guess what? People already created in their brain all they had to know about that kingdom, and it's more or less the same thing that the author had in mind, because the name will transfer that whole like baggage, that whole like luggage of what the kingdom is to the author. I don't remember exactly which author was that I read about. I was exactly saying that it was like telling, like, they had like this little kingdom written down. They never mention it again. They just write it one time, just the name of it, and for some reason, because of the name they created, the people were able to actually imagine exactly the kingdom that he was envisioning. A chamber girl with 2 shadow scratches on the back rest, representing 28 other scratches on their rightmost leg from the front. Yes, Bones. Yes, I love it. I love it. And you know, how can you like create that whole description without saying it? You can say that in the house lived a really, really mischievous cat, and you can actually like save yourself all the descriptions of the scratches on the furniture itself, because you just say that there was a mischievous cat, and everybody knows that mischievous cats like to basically claw all the furniture. And that's world building. You just created a cat to actually describe the whole thing. You're describing it indirectly. You can even say there was a really mischievous cat, so all the furniture in the house was in disarray. There you go. You have all the people imagining exactly the things that you want them to know. All the things that you want them to know. It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing how our brain operates, how we create connections, how the reader creates connections, and how World Building can actually help us to, like, direct those, the eldritch being covered in sharp teeth all over its body. Well, obviously, I don't have all the information of your roll bones, but you can say that in another place. Like in this case, I say a cat because it was the most easy thing. But if I don't have the whole book, I cannot say. Sharp teeth all over its body. That's actually sounds super fun to describe. Actually, I love it. Shagarot was in their home, roaming around while their visitor tried to sit down. The chair was all irregular, all broken. All because this creature was made out of sharp fangs. And because they were made of sharp fangs, there was no furniture in the house that was safe from being destroyed. That's why this creature usually slept in a bed of bronze. There you have it. Fun. I love it. That's super fun actually to imagine. It's like, how would a creature like that? Bed of rocks. Indeed, bed of rocks actually works too. But think about it, a bed of rocks will be a little bit of a uncomfortable situation, because first, it wouldn't be a smooth surface, and if it has like sharp teeth, they could, like, when you move around, they could be like stuck in between two rocks. That would be painful. So it wouldn't be a bed of rocks. It could be a bed of rock, like just a slab of rock, one single slab of rock. But the thing about rocks is that their irregular surface will actually be super uncomfortable for a creature made out of teeth, because they will actually feel the whole thing. Dirt, a bed of grass. It will get stuck in between the teeth. You know, that's bad. That's really bad indeed. The best thing will be either a bed of marble, really smooth marble, or a bed of glass too. Glass could be a thing. A really hard glass. Or you could have a bed made out of, let me think. Well, like I say, a metal bed will be good too. A really like smooth surface bed. It needs to be super smooth, with no rough or nothing like that. It should be super smooth, so the things just go over the surface and don't like scratch it or anything. Because it's constantly agony with this environment. Indeed, we did. It's amazing. That's World Building actually, because we're building their home. You see, that's why we ended up with this. We are creating the world around the character in order to make the character move in that world, maybe suffering or maybe enjoying it. That's the thing. That's how it works. Perfect. I love it. I love World Building, by the way. One of my best things is it's doing World Building. World Building is just amazing, and I love it a lot. I'm passionate for World Building. Super interesting subject to do. But does everything that have to be written down in the final product? The answer is no. Only what is relevant to the plot and the character. Super important, that detail over there, to the character. Remember, a character cannot know things that it shouldn't known. For example, you write down that there is like 10 eldritch gods, but the people only do 9 because the 10th one is basically like the void, the forgotten, or something like that. Well, if nobody in your world knows about it because it cannot be known, You don't need to write it down ever. But you can actually say something like, in a moment or something, you can actually like point out that there might be a 10th god, but nobody knows about it, but just a little bit. Just mention it on the fly and let the thing sink into the brains of your audience. That's the thing. Now this is the thing. Where does the world building stops? Now is the question, right? The question we all came here for. Character that knew everything. Well, if you have a character that knows everything, you need to find them a really good role in your story. It's tough to be find the One Piece, then it never stops. If that's the case, Bones, it never stops. It will continue going forever. When does the world building stop? Do you have any ideas? Do you have any like clue if you're creating a world where to stop, when to say, okay, I have enough details to actually start the story now and not get trapped in basically world building limbo? Because you are actually world building limbo in a moment when you actually like, oh my god, I have so many details, I need to keep writing them down because they keep appearing into my head. So, oh my god, look at this. These people have this color of eyes, and you just keep making world building until you have a freaking Bible. The problem is that with the Bible, you're going to have problems picking up what is important for your final book. And the thing is that, where does the world building stop? It stops when you need it to stop. And how do you know when you need to stop stop your world building? When you're starting to get redundant. The plot doesn't stop. It doesn't even start. If you don't stop the world building, the plot will never start. Because you will always be changing things of the plot, trying to accommodate the new details of your world building. That's the problem. The world building stops when it needs to stop. When you have enough, you need to say, this is it. It's enough. When you start creating redundant things, it's done. Exactly. The story isn't about anyone anymore. It's about the environment. That's the problem with the world builders that only do world building and they are like trapped in world building limbo. They will actually end up not writing the story at all. They will just describe an environment. They will be describing a picture, or they will be doing a history book. It's enough when it sufficiently covers your plot. Exactly. Exactly, Bones. It's enough in that moment, you know you're done. If you're writing the life, like I say, of a farm boy in a farm that maybe goes into a war because he's racing as a levy guy and he needs to go to a battle, the whole world building needs to stop in his kingdom, his perspective, and maybe a little bit about the other kingdom just to make the soldiers of the other nation behave in a certain way, and that's it. You need to stop. You don't need to start writing about the other kingdom, about their lack of crops, their lack of land, and that's why they do what they do. And you just start like going up and up and up and up, and then you have a whole Bible of the other kingdom detailing that they are being raided also by other guys and stuff like that, when your character will never meet them other than in battle, kill a couple, come back home all shaken, and just rest for the day, and that's the end of the story. It also depends on the scale of your book, how much world building you need to put into it, how much knowledge can your character decently known in the world, according to their position of power, according to their level of literacy, and according to their intelligence. There is a lot of things that you need to do. That's why I say, in my personal opinion, that the character, that when you build the world, I would say always start with the geography, then you create a culture around the geography, because the geography is actually one of the main things that basically molds a culture, a human society, or the society of elves, or whatever you want. And then you create the character inside that culture, and then you let it run free. And once in your imagination this character is running free, he can meet the king, he can meet the landlord, he can be the landlord, he can be the king, and then he will have a conflict with another kingdom. Okay, let's think about that kingdom. Okay, does our character cares about what is happening in the other kingdom? Is this relevant to this story? Are they going to team out to fight a better foe that is coming their way? Yes, no. In that case, let's create the other kingdom in a little bit more of detail. And within the other kingdom, the evil one, in order to, you know, have the villain of the story, the final villain. Okay, who is this villain? If they are just evil or they are more complex? Yes, no. And that's how you go, like, creating the things. And you don't need to go super deep. You can only have these little answers, yes, no scenarios, and that's fine. You will see that if you have like a world-building brain, your brain will fill off the details of all of that without the need to be writing them off all the time. I created the Bible, the New Testament, like you say, Bones. The Third Testament. And well, the world-building needs to stop when it's not relevant to the story anymore. When it is not relevant to the story. For example, why would you be writing about how the world came to be because of a battle between gods if it has no repercussion in the story? Like, literally, no repercussion at all. It is not mentioned because it is not common knowledge and nothing. You just want to write it down because you think it's cool, and then you don't find a place to put it in the story. And because you don't find a place to put it in the story, you force the story so you can put that bit of info in, and it feels off of place, and it just wasted time of the reader. And there's nothing that the reader hates more than anything, than basically that. Have their time wasted in pointless details that lead to nowhere. Super important. It is super interesting. World building is an amazing tool, but the thing is, you need to know when to stop. And you know when to stop when you start getting either redundant or just plain like unnecessary details. Never go fucked over the authority over our universe. Anyways, here's a story about the life of a dog. Indeed, that's the thing. That's the thing, right? It's like, imagine if you're writing that. It's like, the dog went into the pond. He was swimming graciously across it. Our main character was watching it, thinking about the day ahead of him, all the work he had to do. By the way, did you know that this world was created by a giant monster that was dead and thus disguised the skull of it? Well, moving now, going back to the boring life of a peasant. It's like, why do I need that detail? Like, just tell me the story of the character, because I came here to see the character. If I want a world-building book, well, sell that. That's another thing that you need to think about, is what are you selling? Are you selling the world or a character moving inside that world? One is interesting, the other is really niche. If you have a history book about a fantasy realm, you better have all the details, but that's another thing entirely. If you want to create a history book about a fantasy world, it's so tricky, yet so intriguing. And you know who did it the best? Tolkien. How did Tolkien did it? He talked about sources, fun enough. It was like a history book about a history. It was incredible. It was the history book about the Middle Age. How did they get that? By reading all the books. It was great. But I love how Tolkien has that. Like, in X books, they talk about this. In Y book, they talk about this. And that's how you do it. And then occasionally drop overwhelming facts about the world. Exactly. Think about that. It's a cool like joke, joking like book. That would be actually really cool to do like a joke book with that idea in mind. And even like, well, for example, if you want to do that, I'm going to give you an idea of how to actually. So much of a flaw to put the reader in a tranquil atmosphere, the suddenly throw the punchline with no direct warning. But I find that funny. Indeed, if you want to put something like that in a thing, that would be like a joke book, I would say, like a comedy masking another thing. And if you want to do something like that, I will say create a character obsessed with details, or maybe with a third eye. So maybe you can have a look. Here's this idea: the main character has a like a perk, like a superpower, that is that he can see glimpses of reality, but he cannot express them in words, so he can only keep them to himself. So you have the main character looking at the pond and looking at the dogs, and suddenly he has a revelation of the cosmos order, but he cannot tell it to anyone. That's how you do, like, that's how you can like convey all your world building into it. And if you create the whole plot being this character trying to find a ways either to stop the visions, or maybe like communicate the visions, or maybe he just want to know everything, but he knows that he needs to do specific things to trigger specific visions, or maybe it's just random, and you just want to have this character as a showcase of the world around him, and maybe how it is full of lies. Maybe the main character will have like these visions of the cosmic order, and they will be completely different from what the priest or the books say. But he cannot write it down or anything because a force is compelling him to not do it, right? And he's trying to actually find, with that third eye of his, what is the law that is compelling him to not write or say anything that he knows of. Like, why is the reason that he cannot communicate these things to other people? And maybe in the end of the book, if you want to have it like super you're breaking the fourth wall, you can say that then the knowledge drop like a drop of ink. Our main character, insert name here, in this case insert name here, was struck by the ultimate revelation. He was a character in a book, and the reason why he couldn't talk about how the cosmic order of his world worked was because the writer was too lazy or unwilling or evil to let him do that. There you have the story. There you have the punchline at the end. There you have it. The author was unable to portray the reactions of the people around our main character, so much so that they will not kill him according to his world building. That is why the writer didn't allow the main character to speak about the true order of the cosmos. There you have it. That's even better. The author was protecting his main character because he loved him. And that is when our main character actually lives a happy life, knowing that he's actually being protected. And at the same time, the main author wants someone to know his work, so he's telling this main character how the world really works, and why he made it so that knowledge is hidden, because he found it more interesting. And then you can even put at the end that the main character realizes that the book was actually going to be about the emperor that was going to survive the plot of a murder and fell into a river, and then he lost the memory and he has to come back to his throne. But in the midst of doing all of that, the author began to write about this peasant that knows how to read a little bit. And then he just couldn't stop writing about this peasant because he fell in love with him. So he started giving this little power of like trying to convey how the world works and all of that thing. It's funny. It will be fun indeed. Trying to feel his heart trying to break out of his chest after his love interest handed him a flower and ran away on a whim. Jesus died for our sins. He ran back to his apartment, red face. He did. That's amazing. That's amazing, boss. I love it. Love that. That's awesome. That's fun. Oh my god, that was such a good like it almost like a Borges kind of thing. Borges. It feels like that. It's like Rayuela. It's weird. But that is something. That's a style that I will totally see working indeed. That would be amazing. Just like throwing facts out of nowhere into the book. And you can do that even as a punchline or have a bigger plot around it. Maybe you can have like those little tidbits of information, literally like Jesus died for our sins and stuff like that, right? And you're actually making a transcription of the Bible in between lines. And that will be like a whole meta thing, like a whole meta writing aspect of your book. It will be amazing. And you can even just create those kind of details just to let the audience guessing and trying to understand what is happening with the book. And maybe you can even say it means nothing. And let them just be pondering all their life, wasting resources of academia, trying to understand what the frick is happening with your book. That was just incredible. That was super funny and I love it. That was just ridiculous, but great. that would be incredible. So let me see what we have here. What is World Building? What does plot? And now I will give you a little bit of advice on World Building. Advice on World Building by me. By me. I will say this, okay? This is my little bit of advice. Just create with passion. Love your world. This sounds like really you run and really like generic. I know, but this is the reality. Love your world. Even if you hate your world, love it because it's a figment of your imagination. Even if you create like the worst kind of scenario possible, like everything is horrible, you will love it because of it's that horrible. It's like you're a horror guy and you created a world where everybody is like in constant pain and you're like, I hate this, but you love it in the end. Love your world so you can respect it. And then stop when you have enough. Another bit of advice, maybe start writing the story of the character and create the world around him, around them, on the fly. Allow your world to fit the character, not the character fit the world. This is a recommendation that I will give with a grain of salt, okay? This advice, take it with a grain of salt. Because there are actually people who actually enjoy more to fit a character into a world than the world around the character. And when I say that a world, like you create the world to accommodate the character, I'm not saying that you need to like handicap the world in order for the character to survive or to thrive. I'm talking about the fact that, in this case, the character is a better medium to express the world than a world to express a character. Sometimes different authors, different writers, different comic baby, I read it, it's a different thing. Different like creators have different approaches to this, and I will say each of them are valid. And just, you know, just do it. Just do it. If you are comfortable with creating the world before the character, do it that way. If you're comfortable with creating the character before the world, do it that way. And there is no like error in the way you're doing things, in the order you're doing things, because both points are valid. You just have a different way to approach world building, and that is the thing. There are two different ways to approach world building. One of them is, like I just said, character before world. The other one is world before character, and that is completely valid. Do not let anyone ever tell you like, oh no, you're doing it wrong, you need to do this first before that. No. All of them are valid. It's your style. That's something that we're gonna talk in another class. Style is the most important thing that a writer can have, both in the conception of the idea, the execution, and the final result. So, final words is this one. It is valid to do any anything in any order. You can have the world before the character or the character before the world. And that's it. For example, now I'm thinking about a pirate crew as the main characters of my story. Well, let's create now the world around that pirate crew. And then I'm thinking about a continent with 3 kingdoms. Okay, let's create characters inside that continent with 3 kingdoms. See, you can do both ways, and both ways are valid. And both ways will lead you to having the best kind of book, short story, or whatever you want, imaginable. The boy can put the knife through his best friend's chest. Through his car, he knew that his face was sealed. The Barbie movie and the Oppenheimer movie were released around the same time. I love it. Oh my god. But if it's like Barbie letting just a creation of the government that they are cleaning it up because the whole became conscious about relocating. I'm gonna check it before the world. See? Look at that. It's all about your own style and it's all about your own preference. In this case, you prioritize characters before the world, and that is completely fine. There is nothing wrong about it. If you're creating a character and you say this character will be great if it had a dragon companion, or maybe if it met a nymph, well, the world will accommodate to that, and you will create it around that, and it will feel natural. And that is the thing. That's another thing. The important thing is that it feels natural when creating it and reading it. That's the most important thing. If you're trying to follow like the advice from someone that tells you like the steps to world building, right? Like someone who tells you like, this is how you world build. You do this, 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 and then this. And you feel like it's all like formulaic, it's mechanical, it's uncomfortable for you, but you are like, oh, but this person is like so famous, they must know what they're doing, so I will do exactly as they say. Don't do that. The important thing is it feels natural when creating it and reading it. If you are creating something that feels mechanical and like out of a factory, well, know this, your reader will also know that it's out of a freaking factory, and it will feel so artificial and so lackluster. So what do I recommend? Do what it feels good for you, because your feeling of comfortableness, like I'm comfortable writing this, will be transferring your words and your pacing and everything to your reader. And because your reader will feel that you're comfortable with the way you're writing your own story, they will actually feel that that is something that is really happening inside their minds and not something that is being force-fed into them because the whole thing needed to follow this formulaic way of writing. That's something really important you need to know and you need to basically absorb if you want to be a writer or any kind of storyteller in general. And I still remember the backstories I have given to them. That's amazing. That's actually amazing. Indeed, indeed, indeed. And the backstory is actually world building, because if you think about it, every single backstory of every single character is actually how the world interacted with them. A technological advanced humanoid robot in the Stone Age. Well, you can have that advanced technological humanoid robot be either an alien, a time traveler, or both. I love it. 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 Okay, so that was the class of today. I hope you had fun, I hope you enjoy it, and well, I'm going to do another poll for next week class. It's going to be fun. I hope you found this little thing enlightening, Bona Vector. I hope you did. I hope you enjoy it. It's basically that. Anything you want to ask, now is the moment to ask questions about anything regarding to stories or to world building, to character building, anything you want. Character building is actually a subject that we can touch in another, that we can like cover in another class. But if you have any kind of question, like doubt that you're having when creating a story, or you want to maybe hear my advice when like, I don't know, you're just one of those people that are like, someone sent me to do this, is it right? I could say you yes or no. So if you have any questions, just say it now, and I will answer them the best I can. Remember, I'm a veteran on this. I'm a veteran writing. You can know that because I immediately have like a lot of things. to be a great insight of how I should will the story of my characters properly. Yay! I'm glad, McTavish. I'm glad, Vector. You don't have any question, Bones? Perfect. Love it. I love to talk about writing or creating stories, because for me, it's the best thing ever. Oh, actually, let me give you an example of world building really fast. Example. I'm going to create a world right now. So, and this is how I'm going to do it right now, because I want to just lay the foundation of this world that I'm about to create, okay? It is, listen, it is. It is a world where the rivers, where there is a river of blood. Next, a blood that pours out of a sleeping giant's wound. Vampire counts live near that river, but recently the giant is not giving enough blood. So the vampires are starting to get worried and planning to harvest the humans living outside the big walls. But our main character, Magus, will try to find what is happening to the giant by how do you say, by associating with a human a shaman who knows about life cycle and the about the life cycle of giants. That's how you have it. There you have a whole world. You have here in this little thing, like in this little like thing, you have the whole thing. You have a world, basically the world building is this. It's a secluded community, like they live surrounded by the big wall of China, I could say. Like they live in this like patch of land, all the vampires are there. There is a giant laying around, maybe a titan we could call it, that has a deep wound, a deep cut where the blood pours out. And that creates a big waterfall and a river of blood. The vampires can live there in peace because they don't have to hunt for their own food. They have this river that is eternal, quote unquote. And then the river starts to lower its depth, right? It starts to dry out. And that is because the giant is basically running out of blood. But that hasn't happened in 1,000 years, and the level the river is diminishing is really fast. So the counts, the ruling caste, is actually saying like, hey, we might need to start hunting again. Remember the last wars that we did against the human realm? But we're gonna need to do that again in order to be able to survive. So war is about to break out, but our main character, that is a Magus, a really sorcerer, he wants to keep the peace and he needs to find out what is happening to the giant, but he has no idea, because we can say maybe that the vampires like empathy, and because they like some sort of like, they have empathy but not necessarily a lot. So what is happening is that the Magus cannot understand why the giant is actually dying, and it needs a human with a human connection to the earth and to the creatures living within it to be able to understand that the giant need extra care in order for not one to die. Is that right? Things like that. That's how we'll do it. That was the thing. Right? That would be like the story, the underlying story. It's not that it's not like the vampires don't have empathy, it's that they have little of it. They can understand the pain of others, but they don't necessarily like they don't show great interest in that. Why? Because they're predators, because they feed on the blood of others, and that usually kills them. So if they have empathy all the time, they will just off themselves because of the amount of suffering they create to others. We can even say that the suffering that their bite creates in a living organism is so great, so nerve-wracking. The screams are so powerful. When they bite a human, they scream a lot and they suffer a lot, that their brains themselves are actually like suppressing the emotional thing that is the connection with other living beings, except with their own kind, because it will be unbearable for them to know what they're doing to their victims. That's how I will create this world. And there you have it. And I don't have to write a lot more. I just need to have this. And that's it. That's all I need. And there you have a story. There you have the setting for the story. Now I want to buy this book, actually. It sounds super cool. I might do it. Sounds actually really cool. I like it. Well, that's the thing. Well, do you like the class? Do you like the last example that I created over here? It's really cool, actually. I really enjoy it. I love it. Did I write with Shaman? Shaman isn't right. Oh, Shaman is with the S, isn't it? Or am I completely crazy? Yeah, Shaman with was S. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Correctness. What do you have in correctness? That try for free today. Yeah, I don't have premium. And that's the story that I have. Add the random facts. You don't need to add the random facts. If you add the random facts... Yeah, I know it's a joke, but I love it. Yeah, that's the thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, watching this after the fact or watching during the stream, I thank you all for coming here this lovely day to just hear me ramble about creating stories, storytelling in general. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you can write amazing works of literature, art, comic books, whatever you want, video games even. And I hope my little ramblings were of help in basically delving a little more into the beautiful world that is storytelling. So, Dr. McTavish and Bones, thank you for coming to today's stream. It was really refreshing for me, and I hope it was refreshing for you. So, I will say bye-bye, and have a wonderful rest of the night. In your case, you're in the middle of the night, if I'm not mistaken. So, well, have a good night's sleep to everyone who is in the nighttime of the world, and have a beautiful day to everyone who is in the daytime of the world. So, bye-bye. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Thank you, Daddy, too, for being here. Yeah. Thank you. I never could write a good world. You will be able to. Don't worry. Well, bye-bye. Kisses, hugs, and I will see you all tomorrow with more streams. Bye-bye. 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 Bye.